A soft wind carried the delicate scent of lavender through Kensington Palace's sprawling gardens on a crisp spring morning in 2024, the early sunlight casting a golden glow across the cobblestone courtyard. The palace's golden stone facade shimmered, its arched windows catching the light like polished mirrors, a breathtaking sight that drew murmurs of awe from the small crowd of tourists gathered to soak in its history. The air hummed with the energy of a new day, the rhythmic clink of camera shutters blending with the hum of multilingual chatter, Italian, Japanese, Arabic, a vibrant symphony of voices echoing off the ivy-clad walls. Children darted through the crowd, their laughter sharp and bright, while couples posed for photos against the ornate gates, their smiles wide with the thrill of being in such a historic place. At the courtyard's center stood a royal guard, a solitary figure stationed near the wrought iron gates, his scarlet tunic a vivid splash of color against the muted greens and grays of the surroundings. His towering bearskin hat cast a shadow across his stern face, his gaze fixed on an invisible point beyond the horizon, his body a study in disciplined stillness. A faint scar ran along his cheekbone, a jagged line barely visible in the sunlight, hinting at a past far removed from the ceremonial duties he now performed, a past where every moment demanded vigilance, forged in the crucible of conflict zones where survival hinged on instinct and resolve. Among the crowd was Sophie Harper, a 34-year-old event planner from Bristol, her nerves frayed from the challenges of a day out with her twin daughters, Lily and Emma. Sophie had planned this trip as a special treat, a chance to create magical memories for her 6-year-olds before the chaos of her busy season began. Her auburn hair was swept into a loose ponytail, strands escaping to frame her flushed face, her cheeks tinged pink from the brisk air and the constant effort of keeping her daughters in check. Lily and Emma skipped ahead, their matching pigtails bouncing with each step, their giggles cutting through the morning calm as they pointed at the palace's turrets, their imaginations spinning tales of princesses and dragons within its walls. Sophie's tote bag hung heavily on her shoulder, its contents a testament to her preparedness. Snacks, a camera, a small first aid kit, and a battery-operated bubble machine she'd brought to entertain the girls during the long wait to see the changing of the guard. The device, a cheerful pink contraption adorned with a peeling unicorn sticker, was a last-minute addition, a leftover from a recent children's party she'd organized, its fan promising a stream of shimmering bubbles to keep Lily and Emma occupied and perhaps prevent the inevitable tantrums of a long morning. Sophie knelt to set the bubble machine on the cobblestones, her fingers fumbling with the switch as she balanced a juice box in her other hand, her attention split between the device and Emma's request for a second helping of crackers. The machine whirred to life, its tiny motor humming softly as it began to blow a stream of iridescent bubbles into the air, their rainbow surfaces catching the sunlight like miniature prisms, casting fleeting bursts of color across the courtyard. Lily and Emma squealed with delight, their small hands clapping as they darted after the bubbles, chasing them with unrestrained joy, their sneakers scuffing against the cobblestones as they spun in circles. The bubbles floated upward, some bursting in midair with a soft pop, others drifting lazily on the breeze, their delicate forms glinting like tiny jewels against the backdrop of the palace's ivy-covered walls and the vibrant green of the manicured lawn beyond. The crowd around them smiled at the children's antics, their faces softening at the sight of such innocent joy, some tourists even joining in to pop the bubbles, their laughter mingling with the girls as they captured the whimsical moment on their phones. A group of schoolchildren on a field trip, their uniforms a splash of blue against the crowd, pointed excitedly, their teacher shushing them with a fond smile as she adjusted her scarf against the morning chill. But Sophie, distracted by Emma's dropped juice box which had rolled under a nearby bench, didn't notice the machine's position, just a few feet from the guard's post, nor the way the breeze was steering the bubbles directly toward him. The guard remained statuesque as the first bubbles drifted past, their delicate forms brushing against the polished brass buttons of his tunic, leaving faint, glistening traces of soap that shimmered in the sunlight. but the stream soon thickened, a shimmering swarm enveloping him like a cloud of tiny, iridescent orbs, their relentless assault transforming the scene from playful to chaotic. Bubbles clung to his scarlet tunic, their soapy residue seeping into the fabric, staining the pristine red with faint wet patches, while others burst against the thick fur of his bearskin hat, sending droplets sliding down its sides in glistening trails. A few even landed on his face, the soapy liquid leaving faint streaks across his weathered skin, one bubble popping just below his eye, the sting of the soap causing a nearly imperceptible flinch that only the closest onlookers noticed. The crowd's amusement shifted to unease, their gasps rippling through the courtyard like a wave, their phones now aimed at the guard as they sensed the brewing tension. A father in the crowd tightened his grip on his son's hand, his brow furrowing as he whispered to his wife about the guard's potential reaction, while a group of teenagers in hoodies exchanged nervous glances, one of them muttering about the bubble invasion being the best thing they'd seen all trip, their voices a mix of excitement and apprehension. The guard's eyes, previously fixed on the horizon, flickered briefly to the bubbles coating his uniform, a subtle twitch in his jaw betraying the storm beneath his calm exterior. His face, marked by that faint scar along his cheekbone, a remnant of a mission in a war-torn desert where he'd shielded a child from gunfire, his own body taking the brunt of a shrapnel blast, remained otherwise impassive, but the air around him seemed to crackle with unspoken warning. He had faced far worse than a swarm of bubbles in his years of service, nights spent in the blistering heat of Helmand Province, where the hum of enemy drones overhead signaled imminent danger, moments where he'd held a wounded comrade's hand, whispering assurances as medics raced against time, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders, and countless drills that had ingrained in him a discipline that no amount of chaos could break. Yet the indignity of this moment, the soapy film on his face, the bubbles marring his pristine uniform, the laughter of the crowd that felt like mockery, stirred a quiet fury within him, a reminder of the fragility of the order he was sworn to uphold. His mind lingered on a memory of a dusty checkpoint, the scent of gunpowder in the air, the weight of his rifle as he stood guard against unseen threats, and the contrast to this moment, where his enemy was a child's toy, only deepened his resolve to maintain control, to not let this trivial incident unravel the discipline that had kept him alive through far darker days. Sophie, realizing her mistake, lunged for the bubble machine, her hands fumbling to turn it off, her face paling as she saw the guard's expression, her heart sinking with the weight of her error. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, her voice trembling as she scooped up the device, its fan still whirring weakly in her grasp, a few rogue bubbles escaping as she clutched it to her chest. She pulled Lily and Emma close, their wide eyes fixed on the guard, their earlier joy replaced by uncertainty as they sensed their mother's panic, their small hands gripping her jeans tightly. The twins' unicorn backpacks bounced as they shuffled closer, their once sparkling eyes now clouded with confusion, their laughter silenced by the tension that had overtaken the courtyard. Sophie's mind raced with thoughts of consequences. Would she be fined, arrested, banned from the palace? Her career had taught her to handle crises, but nothing had prepared her for this. A public mishap in front of a royal guard, her daughters watching as she faced the repercussions of a moment's carelessness, her heart pounding with a mix of guilt and fear as she imagined the headlines this might spawn. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, their reactions a chaotic tapestry of emotions. Some tourists stepped back in apprehension, their hands clutching their bags as if preparing to flee, while others leaned in, their curiosity outweighing their fear, their phones trained on the unfolding drama. A street vendor selling souvenirs dropped his tray of keychains, the clatter echoing across the courtyard like a gunshot, his eyes wide with a mix of shock and amusement as he scrambled to gather his scattered wares, his hands trembling slightly from the sudden commotion. A young woman in a floral dress whispered excitedly to her friend about the guard's scar, speculating that he must have been in the military, her voice a mix of awe and nervousness as she zoomed in with her phone, capturing the moment for her travel blog, her fingers trembling with excitement at the thought of the story she'd tell her followers. With a slow, deliberate motion, the guard raised a gloved hand, brushing the bubbles from his tunic, each swipe a measured act of restraint that belied the tension in his frame, his movements precise as if he were defusing a bomb rather than clearing away soap. The soapy residue on his face, a glistening sheen that caught the sunlight, seemed to push him to the edge. The sting of the soap in his eyes a minor irritation compared to the affront to his duty. A duty that had once meant standing guard in the face of mortal danger, not childish pranks. He took a single step forward, his polished boots clicking against the cobblestones with a sound that was sharp and commanding, cutting through the tense silence that had fallen over the courtyard like a blade. His gaze locked onto Sophie, his dark eyes piercing through the crowd, a silent reprimand that spoke of battles fought and discipline forged in fire, a discipline that had carried him through the darkest moments of his career, moments where he had faced down armed insurgents, navigated minefields, and led his squad through ambushes, his calm under pressure earning him a medal that now lay hidden among the folds of his uniform. The crowd held its breath as the guard's step forward sent a ripple of tension through the courtyard, the playful bubbles still floating lazily in the air, their innocence now a stark contrast to the brewing storm. The hashtag number sign Kensington Bubbles began trending within minutes, the incident spreading across social media like wildfire, with comments ranging from amusement to outrage. Some praising the guard's restraint while others debated the appropriateness of bringing such a toy to a historic site. 2 more guards emerged from the palace gates, their boots echoing in unison as they marched across the courtyard, their stern faces a stark contrast to the playful bubbles that still drifted in the air, their rifles held at the ready in a display of military precision. They moved to restore order, one of them gesturing for the crowd to step back, his voice a low command that cut through the murmurs like a knife, while the other approached Sophie, his expression unreadable as he extended a hand, silently indicating for her to follow. Sophie nodded, her face burning with embarrassment, her daughters clinging to her as she was escorted away, the bubble machine dangling from her hand like a guilty confession, its once cheerful hum now a faint whine as the battery began to die. The crowd parted to let them through, their whispers following her like a shadow, some sympathetic, others judgmental, a few even laughing at the absurdity of the situation, their voices a cacophony of reactions that made Sophie's cheeks burn hotter with every step. The original guard returned to his post, his bearskin hat now free of bubbles, the fur slightly damp from the soapy assault but otherwise intact, its black surface gleaming in the sunlight as he adjusted it with a precise motion. His posture was as rigid as ever, a pillar of tradition amidst the chaos that had unfolded, but a faint tension lingered in his stance. A barely perceptible stiffness in his shoulders, a subtle clenching of his jaw, a silent testament to the disruption he had endured and the restraint he had exercised in the face of it. His dark eyes scanned the courtyard once more, a flicker of memory passing through them, images of a rain-soaked battlefield, the weight of a rifle in his hands, the shouts of his squad as they moved through a hail of gunfire. The crowd dispersed slowly, their excitement replaced by whispers of awe and unease. Their perception of the guard irrevocably changed, their minds replaying the incident as they drifted toward the palace gardens. They had come to Kensington Palace expecting a quaint glimpse of royal tradition, a moment of nostalgia to share with friends, a postcard-perfect photo to post online. Instead, they had witnessed a display of raw, disciplined power, a reminder that even amidst the whimsy of bubbles, strength and authority stood unyielding, ready to assert control when the moment demanded, a strength that had been forged in fire and tempered by years of service, a strength that no amount of soap could wash away.